So I want to take you all the way back to the very beginning, where I was at the time where I had made the decision to move in to do Austin Angels work. So back at Christmas of 2009, me and a couple of our girlfriends were all sitting around a dinner table, and we were talking about New Year's resolutions. And one by one, each one of the women around the table had said things like, I want to lose weight, I want to read more, I want to be a better mom. And when it got to me, I said, I am really feeling this calling that I want to volunteer just one day a month. But I don't really know what that actually looks like because I've never volunteered a day in my life. And so I was really excited because all the women around the table said, that sounds good. So fast forward, January 1st rolls around, and at my desk in my Google search bar, how to volunteer in Austin, Texas. And volunteermatch.com popped up, and you could go in and you could say what you were passionate about. So at the time I had said women and children. And so Hope Alliance had popped up as a volunteer opportunity. Now, Hope Alliance is a place where battered women and children will go for refuge as kind of an intermediate plan before they kind of decide where they go after that. So I called and I said, hey, I've got a group of girlfriends and we want to come in and volunteer. We've never done this before. Do you have any opportunities for volunteering? And they said, we do. We've got rooms here that could really use an update. Things like paint on the wall and new sheets and pillows. Would you like to come and do a room makeover? And we thought, yeah, we could totally do that because all of us had come from the home building world. So this felt like a supernatural thing for us to do. So we showed up in January. I'd sent an email to the group of girlfriends and said, okay, we need pillows and we need blankets and we need artwork and we need paintbrushes and paint. And so one by one, we were kind of assigning these things for women to come and do, and it made it really easy for them. So the very first event that we ever did, we had, I don't know, like 10 women show up, a handful of guys that had shown up, and we had literally transformed like 3 rooms in this emergency shelter. And we turned it from cold and drab to really fab. And I remember the people, when we had done this big reveal, they were like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is such a warm and welcoming place for these women. And at the time I thought, okay, this is perfect. We'll come back in February and we'll do a few more rooms and then we'll complete the project in March. So in February we went back and we made over some more rooms. And then in March, everything changed. Our board president, her name is Tavia. Tavia is a longtime friend of mine. During that time, she was a counselor at a Title I school. And I had gone to her and said, hey, maybe we'll start doing project-based by quarters. So maybe you could find a few single moms or dads who was really struggling financially that maybe they would need our services. Maybe we could go in and make over rooms or help in that way. So she went to her school and she had talked to the counselor. She came back and she said, Susan, we've got a family that we can help in April. There's a single mom who's living with her mom in a manufactured home that needs a lot of work on the home, and they have 5 children. And I said, perfect, we'll focus on them in April. But 2 weeks before we went back to the project in March, back to the shelter to make over more rooms, Tavia had called me and said, Susan, this family needs our help now more than ever. The mom, who is working 2 minimum wage jobs, and the grandma not working, the mom has just died in a tragic car accident. And this family needs a lot more support than what I think we were initially, looking at. And I remember the weight of feeling like, oh my gosh, we're just a bunch of friends that get together and throw sheets on a bed and paint on the wall. This is so much bigger than us. And this family didn't speak English and I don't speak Spanish, so I took my mother-in-law with me. And I went one day before work at like 8 o'clock in the morning and, we knocked on the grandma's door and you could just feel the sadness and the heartbreak. And I had asked my mother-in-law to translate to the grandma, like, what do you need? How can we help you? And she said, we have nothing, literally nothing. My daughter, we are all here on a work visa, and now that she's gone, I don't know how I'll feed the kids. And I went over to the cupboards and I opened them and looked, and there was in fact no food. The kids were eating breakfast and lunch at school, and on weekends they were a part of the backpack program where they would get food in the backpack and go home, and that's how they were eating. And I went back to my office completely overwhelmed that day, and I sat down and I typed up an email and I said, the best thing that we can do for this family is if you will take this email and you will forward it to every single person in your database system, that this family needs so much more support. And it was unbelievable, because this was the month that really told me that there are good people in this world and that people actually want a way in which to give back. They just needed a reason or the how-to do it. So that month, that email landed in like 500 different people's laps. We had more support than we were even capable of handling. My garage at the time turned into a storage unit because people out of nowhere were bringing me, bags and bags of new clothes for each one of the kids. So every kid got a whole new wardrobe and shoes and house supplies and towels, and we completely outfitted this entire home. This email had landed in the lap of an attorney in Houston and contacted me and said, Susan, I'd love to give you a large contribution for this family, but only if I can get a tax receipt. And I was like, I don't know what to say to that. Like, how would that even be possible? And he said, well, our law firm does a lot of work in the nonprofit space. We would be happy to file you as a nonprofit organization. Are you interested in that? And if you will choose that route, like if it is that you are going to start volunteering, this would be an easier way for you to get money if people could get a tax write-off for it. And I was just like, I remember sitting back from my desk and being like, okay, God, like literally it was not a focus at all for me to create a nonprofit, that it was literally going to have to be this is what I want out of your life. And so I said, yes. And he said, great. So we need to start with a name. So what do you want your name to be? Well, this was a conversation that happened after we had started rolling in donations and rolling in the support for the people. And what ended up happening was that we were able to get $100 worth of groceries delivered every single week to grandma. We raised enough money to bury the daughter, and one of the children was having a birthday, and we threw this massive pizza party, birthday party for this family. Now, they had some extended family that came, and when we were at this pizza party, because nobody could really communicate because of the language barrier, the brother of the mom who had died, so the kid's uncle, had got up and in Spanish had said, like, I've never actually believed in God before, but I believe with all of my heart that you are angels. So when the attorney says, what do you want your name to be? I say, I think it makes sense that we're Austin Angels. And he said, okay, let me see if that's available. Comes back and says, actually, that name is taken. What else do you want it to be? And I thought, well, I think we're transforming lives. So maybe it's Transformations by Austin Angels. Because when he came back and said Austin Angels was taken, he said, but it's not in use. It's taken, but nobody's using it. And I thought, how about we call it Transformations by Austin Angels? Comes back and says, bingo, that's your name. So today, we are known as National Angels, and every regional chapter is known. Chicago Angels, Austin Angels, Atlanta Angels, so on and so forth. But our legal name is Transformations by, and our values start with hope and they end with transformation, which is pretty cool.